We move on now and look at trade as Brazil has urged the United States to respond to a proposal first submitted in May after President Donald Trump announced a tariff hike on Brazilian goods from 10 to 50% starting on the 1st of August. In a joint statement, Brazil's Foreign Affairs Ministry and Ministry of Development said a follow-up letter had been sent to Washington reinforcing the May 16th offer. The statement came a day after US Trade Representative Jameson Greer announced an investigation into what he described as Brazil's unfair trade practices. Here is what the Brazilian Vice President has had to say on the trade proposal and said investigation.
Nós queremos negociação, é urgente. O bom é que se resolva aí nos próximos dias. Se houver necessidade nessa negociação de prorrogar, não vejo problema. Agora, o importante era resolver. Olha, primeiro sobre a investigação, a seção 301, não é a primeira vez que é feita uma abertura de investigação. Isso já foi feito anteriormente, o Brasil respondeu e o assunto foi encerrado. Dessa vez, o Brasil vai...
Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced that she had held talks with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to reinforce trade cooperation between their countries. Sheinbaum said both leaders agreed on the need to uphold the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, also known as the USMCA, and they exchanged views on the tariff letters received from President Trump. Let's now listen in to Claudia Sheinbaum.
Ambos estamos de acuerdo en que es indispensable que se respete el tratado comercial, el TEMEC, y compartimos pues algunas experiencias sobre la carta que recibimos por parte del presidente Trump. Ellos recibieron una carta con 35% de aranceles, nosotros con 30%. Y pues las estrategias que estamos siguiendo. Ellos tienen también una mesa con las secretarías del gobierno de Estados Unidos, igual que nosotros. Uno de los temas que les planteé es por qué no ponemos en blanco y negro pues las inversiones que tienen ya planeadas en Estados Unidos para que puedan ser parte pues de esta mesa de trabajo que tenemos.
Well, joining us to discuss the ramifications of these conversations around trade, Peter Cordillo, a chief market economist at Spartan Capital Securities, who is joining us live from New York. Peter, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. Let's look at both of these aspects here. First, starting with Brazil, a jump from 10% to 50% levies announced by the Trump administration. Trump previously has spoken about these rates being a tool for negotiations. Is there something else at play here in this US-Brazil relationship that could see potentially higher tariffs up to 50% placed on Brazil, which could, of course, have crippling economic impacts?
Yes, indeed, it certainly would cripple and certainly would raise any imported prices from Brazil to the United States. So I think, that 50% is a very steep level, and it probably be negotiated. This is the pattern of the Trump administration, and that is to retaliate until there is serious negotiations and tariffs are brought down to levels that might not be as damaging as 50% would be. So I remain hopeful that negotiations will start and that these tariffs are not going to be implemented at these steep levels.
Yes, and of course Brazil urging the United States to follow up on a proposal they say was sent a decent while ago. Let's briefly touch, before we move on the conversations between Canada and Mexico. Of course, that three-way alliance that has been jeopardised by the US tariff action. Do you think that the US could be isolating themselves in this three-country alliance looking at trade with Trump's actions?
There is that possibility, but total isolation, no, absolutely not. These countries, global countries, I should say, need to trade with the United States. And so, again, the action taken by Mexico, getting perhaps more closer with Canada, is again a sign of negotiation, of trying to negotiate with the United States, even though it appears that they would want to lessen their trade with the United States. As I said before, they need to trade with the United States. It's again a bargaining tool, you might say, that Mexico is using, and not only Mexico, there'll be others, but eventually, again, that would lead to discussions that would lower the tariffs and try to reach a mutual agreement between the United States and whomever they are negotiating with. In this particular case, it would be Mexico. Again, it's a method of bringing everyone to the table.
Yes, Peter, if you stay with us, we are going to stay with trade, but in a separate development, US President Donald Trump has said that the US